And I will begin with the invocation. Dear God, we thank you for literally the team that you have brought together from places across South Carolina and from many different experiences. The diversity here and the commitment here is up to the task and the great mission that we have to complete and the opportunity to pursue. I thank you for each here who are leaders. We are so nimble, we are so small, we are like special teams getting the job done. I thank you for those that have come, given of their time, talent, and energies for this great cause, the South Carolina Public Charter School District of South Carolina. Thank you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
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 Now, Pledge of Allegiance. Coach Billy Strickland.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. That was my first mistake. I asked you to do that, and I was looking at Billy. Billy,
I looked at him.
You did great.
okay, whoever's taking notes, make that. You came through. Billy
Now.
is the mission statement.
Okay. All right,
Thank you.
thank you. I will not repeat the pledge again.
That'd be
Because I was looking. All right, thank you. The South Carolina Public Charter School District authorizes, champions, and supports the creation and advancement of innovative K-12 public charter schools that provide access to academic opportunities for every student in South Carolina to reach their fullest potential.
Thank you. And now we will go to a roll call of those here today. Thank you,
Thank you.
Jonathan.
So Jonathan Butcher is present, Dexter Davis,
Dexter Davis, present.
Stephen Gilchrist,
Stephen Gilchrist is present.
Kip Miller. Present. Cindy Mostetler.
Present.
Randy Page is not here. Teresa Pope. And Billy Strickland.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Yes, thank you. And Randy is in a bus to Florida with his college baseball team. To give them either fatherly advice or good advice or whatever. Now, I wanted to take a moment after the roll call to, I wanted to say a few words about our new board member, Dexter Davis, whom I've had the opportunity to read about and talk with. And this is a person of leadership and in many areas of life, coaching, playing, his care at Liberty Steam. He's the vice chair, or I guess you have left that position.
Yes.
Just quickly, yeah. And Liberty Steam, which is really, it's a great word, STEAM, not only what it stands for, but y'all are rolling it over there. I know that's true. I see the numbers. So this is a man whose personality is as strong as his talent. We had a great conversation the other day and very appreciated his values, his commitment to our community, his commitment to principles that we all embrace as important in education, the sanctity of an individual, the hope for the future. We want to give children a future and a hope, and I know that's what Dexter is about. Now, Dexter was regarded as one of the top players at Clemson, and I think you were under the coach right before Dabo Sweeney. Is that right?
Danny Ford.
Danny Ford. And he went on to play with the St. Louis Cardinals and the LA Rams, and just a wonderful, outstanding career. And he has been involved also with mentoring people in this paradigm of sports, and has been significantly involved over the years with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes.
Absolutely.
And so in spite of the great heights he's reached, he's still very grounded. And that's the kind of person I perceive that he is. And we are honored to have your strength of character and your strength of experience and your commitment already to this effort called the charter school. So we're very glad to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. Honored to be here. Really honored to be
representing the state of South Carolina. It's just hometown for me, and life's journey has brought us to a place where we could do something bigger than ourselves, and this is certainly that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. And he is the appointee of the Speaker of the House, Merle Smith, which I'll be writing him a thank you note, so you'll just know that. Now, I also, since this is my first few moments to take this as chair, I wanted to say just a quick few things about myself, so you will know who I am. I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. Our family business for 50 years have been the boats that go to Fort Sumter. My brother, my younger brother Richard, was married on Fort Sumter in 2007, and the word is that he was the first Southerner to surrender on Fort Sumter. But it all has worked out. Yeah, so we've all enjoyed that family business, and we've been engaged in civic things and political things our family has throughout these years, and we appreciate and love the smallness of South Carolina, where you can know people across the state and know you can have close relationships in a state this size. I've had the opportunity, I'm a Furman graduate. I have a master's in biblical studies and counseling from Covenant Theological Seminary, which was the denomination this church was. When this was a church, it was they call it a PCA church. So that was kind of interesting. My civic work in boards has been under Beasley, I was on the DHEC board. Under Sanford, I was on the Commission on Higher Education. And then under Henry McMaster here now with y'all. In addition to that, some of my talking interests are political and cultural. And for 4 years, I went on Politically Incorrect with Bill Maher. And I would say I beat him on those times that I was on there. He might not say that, but no, we had a really good, a very good substantive fight, love-like relationship. It was a very good experience for me. Messages are more now needed to be heard than ever before. So I just encourage us all to bring what we know, bring what we think, bring what we are committed to through communication, because it's a great way to get things done. Having said all of that, I look forward to this time of service. I will serve as interim until June, when the appropriate time frame is for elections. And if I feel like I can navigate all this pretty well, I would hope to be your chair by vote at that time. But we will all have a little time to watch and see, and we'll peacefully and calmly and proficiently go through that. And those are my remarks. And with that, now we will go into the issues of the consent agenda. The first I need is approval for the agenda of the February 8th, 2024 meeting.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Second? Okay, thank you. All in favor? Aye. The next will be approval for the minutes of the January 11th, 2024 meeting. I hear a motion for that.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Now we will entertain we will ask, are there any public comments today?
Madam Chair, there aren't any.
There aren't any, okay, thank you. The next question we will deal with is there a need for executive session?
Not for legal counsel.
Okay, we're good. Fine right through. We will move on now to the first action item under point 10, the South Carolina Public Charter School Board Policy Manual Revision, second reading. I think Jonathan is going to present that to us.
So, Madam Chair, I make a motion that we have a second reading, approve a second reading of the policy manual. And for, Dexter's benefit, the policy manual, of course, is the rule book that the board follows as we go through our regular operations. It's been undergoing pretty significant review, I would say, to change what's in there and how the board operates. It's, I think, if it hasn't been made available to you, I'm sure that we can make that available to you and point out what things have been new and changed. We've been working closely with Eric, who's guided the whole process. We've had monthly meetings for a while, and this is the part of the phase of going through and approving it. I know we'll have a third reading, and there'll be time for comments before it's all said and done.
Thank you. I do look forward to reading it.
Okay, so motion to approve, and Madam Chair.
Okay, do we have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, we'll proceed with that. Now, our first, in terms of academic issue before us today, is the High Point Academy renewal. The High Point Academy renewal, which Kristen was ahead of me. She's already at the podium, and we'll look forward to hearing this. And I do want to say, do we have people from High Point Academy here today? Yeah, well, if I may, I just want to say that 10 years ago now, I was at your school, and I was at the first graduation. Was it a sixth grade, maybe? Sixth grade graduation? I don't know if it was eighth grade or sixth grade. Eighth grade. Well, my daughter was Miss South Carolina that year, and she came to speak at the graduation. And so everybody was having a wonderful time. I think it was held in a church in Spartanburg, if I recall. But the little boy that stole our hearts was Ethan Rebenzer. And we have a picture of him with that crown on, smile as big as his face, and he and Brooke, and I think of that boy quite often, and of his precious family, and all that they have been through. And so your school, I know, went through that with them, and I know you've come out stronger and even more caring than we would naturally be because of being close to something like this. But that was a precious night in our life, and that was a precious life in little Ethan. So I want to tell you that. It's close to my heart all these years. Okay, so now we will begin to deal with this issue of your renewal, which is always a positive. It's like marriage renewals. We're in a long-term relationship. So with that, I'll hand it to you.
Good morning, Chair Mosteller, members of the board, and Superintendent Neely. Charter school renewal is the process of extending a valuable partnership between a school and the PCSD, resulting in a renewed 10-year charter contract. As outlined in the Charter Act, a charter renewal application must be submitted to the school sponsor and must contain a report on the progress of the charter school in achieving the goals, objectives, and pupil achievement standards, a financial statement that discloses the cost of administration, instruction, and other spending categories, and any proposed material changes to the current charter or charter school contract to be implemented in the next 10-year charter term. Today, we are fortunate to recognize two of our schools that have chosen to partner with the district for the past 10 years. With the board's approval, we will celebrate the renewed commitment to a stronger, more collaborative partnership, putting kids first for the next 10 years. The renewal format will begin with a summary of the renewal report and recommendation. Upon completion, I will ask the school representatives to join me at the podium for the renewal school presentation, and we request that schools keep the presentation to a 10-minute limit to respect everyone's time. After the presentation, the board will ask the school representatives questions, and then a board discussion and vote will follow. Finally, a luncheon and cake will follow today's board meeting. Board members, you have the summary reports and attachments for the two renewal schools. I will provide a brief overview and highlights for each school, beginning with High Point Academy. Located in Spartanburg, High Point Academy, or HPA, currently serves students in grades K through 12. In May 2022, the PCSD Board of Trustees approved an amendment to revise HPA's mission statement and to add a vision statement. HPA's updated mission is to cultivate lifelong learners in a student-centered environment. Its vision is to be an exemplary school of choice for academically minded families. Like the original charter, the school's renewal continues its commitment to STEAM education: science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. Through the incorporation of STEAM strategies, HPA prepares its students for the future workforce of Spartanburg County and surrounding areas. Additionally, the school's fine arts program offers chorus, dance, piano, theater, and guitar. As outlined in the Charter Act, at its discretion, a charter school may hire non-certified teachers in a ratio of up to 25% of its entire teaching staff. HPA has successfully maintained certified staff requirements over the past 6 years. The school anticipates an enrollment of 1,352 students in the 24-25 school year, steadily increasing until the 28-29 school year, when the enrollment caps out at 1,535 students. As of HPA's 45th day, students of color comprised approximately 37% of its student population. Spartanburg School District 6, HPA's resident district, consists of 63% minority students. HPA's diversity is more apparent when including cultural, religious, or linguistic diversity. For example, approximately 11% of the students enrolled at the school are Russian or Ukrainian multilingual learners. 61.7% of HPA students are identified as pupils in poverty, while 69.8% of students served in Spartanburg School District 6 are identified as students in poverty. As required by the Charter Act, the racial composition of a charter school must differ by no more than 20% of the population of the local school district in which the charter resides. HPA has not met the demographic requirements for the past 3 years. The school's plan to address demographic disparity in enrollment includes Facebook ads, recruitment ads sent to strategic zip codes, radio commercials, and participation in community events. In addition, HPA increased the diversity of its staff by hiring highly qualified minority teachers, hoping to attract diversity in new families. Since 2018, HPA has received average or higher ratings on the South Carolina State Report Cards. Its performance for students with disabilities and students of color has increased, but has demonstrated mixed results with pupils in poverty. High Point Academy's annual report submissions have been timely. The school successfully met most of its goals in its most recent annual report, submitted in December 2023. The annual report is included as attachment 2 in the renewal report. The school has experienced steady enrollment since 2021 and projects enrollment gains until it reaches capacity in 2029. A financial review shows that HPA had a fiscal year 2023 ending fund balance of just over $6.8 million, or 66.4% of general fund expenditures. Annual financial audits have shown no findings over the past 3 years, and the 10-year projected budget includes a yearly net income to increase the current fund balance. Material changes include revised goals related to academics, high-quality employees, community engagement, and fiscal responsibility. Academic goals with annual benchmark data through the 2033-34 school year include performance goals for elementary and middle school students tied to SC-ready ELA and math state assessments. High school performance goals are associated with end-of-course exams in Algebra 1, English 2, Biology, and U.S. History. The school's innovative practice goal is to expand and integrate STEAM initiatives throughout the curriculum to cultivate college and career-ready students by becoming a Project Lead the Way K-12 certified school. The renewal also includes a high-quality employee goal focused on increasing the percentage of certified staff. Upon approval, the school plans to use the new charter documents and goals as a framework for developing a 5-year strategic plan. Based on an analysis of the school's academic, financial, and operational performance, the site visit conducted by PCSD staff, and a review of renewal materials submitted by the school, staff recommends approval of the renewal of HPA's charter and contract. This recommendation is also based on sound operations at High Point Academy and the promising academic growth demonstrated over the 10-year term of its charter. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Are there any questions for Kristen? Or obviously, we would have an opportunity to ask questions direct to High Point
Correct.
if they want to.
Make a motion to approve staff recommendation.
Excuse me, I needed to do that first. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Butcher. Any comments?
I have a question.
Yes.
The school has a significant cash fund balance. Can we hear a little bit more about what is planned for that cash?
Actually, I'll invite this school to come on up.
Yeah, any members
Staff.
of the staff that need to be ready to answer a question, please come up.
Thank you to the board, to our board chair, Ms. Miles Stetler, to the board of South Carolina Public Charter School District, and to Mr. Neely. Thank you for having us here today. We really appreciate the opportunity to come. We're excited. We've been in business for 10 years, and we're looking forward to the next 10 years even being better. In response to your question, sir, we are in the process right now of redoing some projects with our roof and doing some other projects with some of that money to get our school up to where we would like it to be in terms of presentation, both inside and out. So there is a plan in place. Our Building and Grounds Committee has met. We'll be making a recommendation to our board at the next board meeting to spend some of that money to make some changes in our campus.
Do you feel like that the school is allocating the funds to help the kids improve in their test scores? Do you have adequate teaching staff, et cetera?
Yes, sir. We have a very adequate teaching staff. With the ESSER money that we had, we hired 4 coaches, and we bought several programs, Eureka Math, Literacy Footprints. We spent about 30% of our ESSER funds on, we were supposed to spend 20, we spent about 30% of our ESSER funds on staffing to help kids, data room coaches, reading coaches, and then we bought some Literacy Footprints program, and we bought we work into Eureka Math, so we spent a lot of money on that as well.
Does the board have a policy about cash on hand, how many months of operating expense?
I believe we have to have 2 months of operating expense for our bond, and our board recommends 90 days.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, so 2 questions for you. So the first was based on what you were just saying. So once the ESSER money is gone, how are you going to keep the staff that you hired with the ESSER money?
Well, when I hired the staff with ESSER money, it was a 3-year contract. Their goal was to teach our teachers, so when they left, our teachers would have the skills and the ability to go on and do those things, and they have done a very good job of that.
So they were short-term hires?
They were short-term hires
for a
to
period.
help with some deficiencies that we noticed.
Okay, thanks. And then, with your enrollment, nice jump from 21 to 22, and then you had slight dip, 40 kids in 23, but then you're looking for an increase in 24, but then a pretty significant increase that's higher than anything that we've seen since 2021. Can you explain, why do you anticipate such a big jump going into 2025?
Well, the last 2 years, they've opened 4 charter schools in the Spartanburg area, and our enrollment has not really gone down with all those charter schools going in, and we feel like we have an opportunity in some of the areas. I have met with probably 15 ministers. I've met with every business person within 5 miles of the school. I have been out in the community, and we have talked. We've put literature out, and we've talked about our programs, and we feel that's going to help us in recruiting students next year.
So I guess my only suggestion then would be just to keep us apprised, because it's a significant jump. It's 100 kids. So just where that lands in 2025, I think would be helpful.
Yes, Dr. Pope.
I noticed over the past 3 years, you've made very little progress in your demographics in terms of minority students. And I guess that might mirror also the number of minority staff you have. Do you have any new ideas to improve in those areas?
Yes, ma'am. We hit all the schools. We go after all the schools and recruit teachers the best we can. We'll be down at Benedict next week when they have theirs. We're at every school we can get to set up a booth to try to encourage teachers. We're looking hard for minority teachers everywhere we can. And we send flyers out. We go down to every recruitment fair that they have, and we talk to everybody we can. Unfortunately, our schools are not producing many people going into education at this time. And that has been a problem for not just my school, but every school.
And what about your recruitment of minority students? What are you doing for that?
Recruitment of minority students, I'm meeting with many of the pastors in the community and talking with them. I have 3 more coming in next week. We have gone through and we have targeted areas. We do digital campaigns. We do mailers. We talk to those people. We go to things like Spring Fling in Spartanburg where we'll set up a booth and we'll talk to everybody that goes by and try to work with them and help them understand what it is we're trying to do.
What percentage of minority staff do you have now?
It's probably 20 to 22, somewhere in there. And we've hired 3 or 4 last year, and we're hoping to hire some more this year.
So in total numbers, that 22% equals to how
We
many
have about
teachers?
90 teachers, so would that be about
How many?
18 probably? 18, 19, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Yes, Mr.
And I just want to piggyback on Dr. Pope's minority interest. Any of your ESSER funds, were any of that used to help with some of your minority recruitment efforts?
It was used for minority and mostly pupils in poverty. We've had more success with minority students and special ed students than we've had pupils in poverty. And I've talked to several other superintendents across the state, and that seems to be a problem that's statewide. And we're working on that. We've got a new program that we bought that is an early warning response system that we've put the kids in. All their data downloads every night, so we're able to track daily which kids are struggling, which kids are falling behind, and we're using that information to help our teachers work with kids who need help.
Do you feel pretty confident that beyond ESSER, those efforts will continue?
Those efforts will definitely continue. The ESSER funds were to get the people to train our teachers how to do that, and those efforts are continuing, yes, sir.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
2 questions, one being Call Me Mr. program. Have you considered that program?
Yes, sir, we're considering that program. I would love to have that program. It's an outstanding program, and that's something that we're looking into.
Second being your temporary hires. When those positions expire, will that decrease your certified teachers at all?
No, it will not decrease my certified teachers at all. In fact, we have 78%. Anyone who comes to work for us, the only way we'll give them a contract is if they get into a program like Carolina CAP, PACE, Teach for America. As part of their contract, they have to work towards certification in order to be hired.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I had a question on the issue. Poverty is an issue that knows no racial bounds or categories. And I realize that you were communicating in your presentation that has been almost the hardest constituency to reach, to teach, that sort of thing. Can you comment on that issue? And I suppose there are so many family issues involved in those types of scenarios. I don't know, but what is an approach that you are having toward the students in poverty and their families, which I guess is, it comes as a whole?
The first thing we did is we took our staff through the Ruby Payne book, Framework for Poverty, and we went through that book with them. And it really talks about the different kinds of poverty, and poverty is different to different groups of people, but it's still poverty. They may call things differently, but it's still poverty, and poverty exists in every aspect of our life. We have students in poverty from every nationality. We have Russian, Ukrainian students in poverty. So poverty is tough because there's cultural, there's all kinds of other things that you deal with when you deal with students in poverty. I don't think I've ever met a parent who doesn't want what's best for their kid. I don't know that they always know the best way to do that, but I think every parent wants what's best for their students. And I think it's being able to make that relationship with that parent and to help that student, and that's what we're trying to do.
Do you find, quickly, just to follow up, do you find that there are resources in your area that can help in a categorical way of make a contribution to some type of lifting up on the poverty? Mentors, things like that.
Yeah, Spartanburg's lucky. We have the Spartanburg Academic Movement, Spartanburg One, and there's some other things that help with those areas, and we have reached out to them and talked with them as well.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
Madam Chair, just a comment. I think, number one, the congratulations on the report card rating, and I know I'm a firm believer, as Chris, that report card is not the all in all. I mean, the results there. But it's very impressive, past year, average, good, and you've been an excellent, which is almost very, very difficult to do. So your teaching staff and you should be congratulated for that, because what a wonderful job. The other thing, I know that y'all are working hard and that y'all's much report, very detailed, but in reading that, I'm very impressed with you trying to integrate the STEAM initiatives to eventually be a lead the way K through 12. And that kind of fits a lot of the charter school goals and initiatives that we have. And I know being a project lead the way K-12 is a positive thing. So congratulations on that and moving toward that, because I think that helps everybody out.
Thank you, Mr. Strickland. I appreciate you saying that, and I just want to say I owe that to my staff. I have an outstanding teaching staff and an outstanding staff that works very hard every day, and I give the credit to the people who do the hard work.
Thank you.
Can I ask one more question, please?
Yes.
Still about this fund balance being so significant, do you have estimates about how much money you plan to spend over the next year or two on your facilities?
Between the roofs and painting and some other stuff we're doing, we'll be spending over $700,000 in the next 4 to 6 months.
Okay, well, that still leaves you with a very significant fund balance.
We're Mr. Nessberg, he's chair of the Building and Grounds. He's on our board. You want to address that?
If that's okay.
Yes, sir.
My name is Matt Nessberg. I'm the vice chair of the board. I've served on the board for 10 years. So I remember when you talked about Ethan Rubenzer, I was there with that first graduation, and appreciate the comments that you made. I chair also the facility committee of board members, and we are having extensive conversations. We just had this conversation about the fund balance. Our board policy, we're required by our bond to have 45 days cash on hand. Our board policy is 60 days cash on hand, but we try to keep it above that just to be sound financially, because who knows what will happen with market conditions, economic conditions in the state. So we're just trying to be a little conservative there, but also trying to plan for the best of the school. So we're looking at significant projects in the future. The most immediate one is some outdoor green and sports space that we hope, I don't want to announce, there's no announcement here, it's just something that we're looking into. That would be a more than $1 million project, maybe $2 million. And so part of what we're trying to strategically plan for those kinds of things, as well as these other improvements that we're making right now.
Okay, can you tell me the amount of the 60-day fund balance?
We do about 35,000 a day, so what would that equal?
35,000 times 60. Who's the mathematician?
28 something million. One.
What was it? 2.1 million?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to follow up, I looked at that also, and Superintendent Neely knows far more than that, but looking from years of public school experience, as you know, looking at it, I looked at that. Y'all actually have decreased your fund balance from 21 to 23, from 176% to 66%. And I know, but because it was lowering, I didn't think that, but I think, you know, the number is very high, Kip. I agree with you, and I looked at it. But the problem you got to think about when you all are building things, it's not like money coming in from the state that Chris is doing. They're going to have to fund those $1 million projects or down the road out of that. So I think the question is always going, is the students, the teaching, the staff getting their needs? And you're probably very lucky as we look at some of them who are so low, then we're worried. So there's a fine balance there that you got to bring to that point, because there's not money coming in. Money's coming in to the students and the staff, but there's no money for buildings, and that's why, you know, some of our charter schools struggle. So I think with that being said, you always have to make sure that the needs are met, but you still got to have something was there. And the fund balance was 7.8 million in 2021, and, so therefore you're $1 million under that. Now, with the thing of that, probably continue to go down, not up, so that's
Well,
important.
I would like to get everything I need and have it go up, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, I would say congratulations on having a
Yeah, and
significant balance. I mean,
That's
that's
right.
great.
Yeah.
In business, it's kind of like a highway and you have ditches and, if you're too far to the left and you're not making money, then the car's not on the road. And if you're making too much money and then you're not reinvesting it back in the business, then the business could fail. So it's just having those clear boundaries and knowing what we're going to do with the cash. But congratulations on strong financials.
Yep.
Yeah.
Second.
Yeah, I just wanted to also state that I met with Brian a few weeks ago, and we talked about this and the investment they plan to make on their capital infrastructure. They are in a very competitive market in Spartanburg County, and there are more charter schools coming literally on top of them. And, the shiny new object always seems to attract the consumer, not necessarily because it might be the best thing, but I do commend Brian and the team and their board for saying we're going to invest some of that money to make our building better. They put a new playground in. I mean, to do the things they need to do to be competitive in the marketplace, because Spartanburg's going to continue to grow, just like Greenville County, and you've got to keep up, and be competitive both inside the building, but also the way it looks and feels on the outside.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So, Mr. Superintendent, do we require our schools to have a fund balance? Is that a requirement that we require?
Well, they're required to have a fund balance, so Nick Michael can tell you what the state
Yeah.
reg is on
Yeah.
that.
The state fiscal practices requirement under legislation is 1 month.
1 month, okay.
1 month.
Got it, okay, all right. Thank you.
Okay. So, no further questions? With that, we will put this to a vote. Are we ready for that, or does he want to show his
They have
presentation?
a slide presentation
Okay.
and a video.
Okay,
You want to start?
good. Good.
There's the slide. There's the slide.
Hi, I'm Miriam. And I'm Dylan. Welcome to High Point Academy. We are part of the Grizzly Growl broadcast team.
And so am I.
Maya, this is our segment.
But
fine. This is the entire broadcasting team. We are a group of 4th and 5th graders who create a weekly news show for our school.
But today we have a very special report where we will tell you everything about HPA.
Well, maybe not everything.
Yes, everything.
Okay. Why don't we just show you what makes our school shine? First up, we have Khalees and Kinley introducing our first special segment.
Hi, I'm Khalees.
And I'm Kinley. Here at High Point Academy, we celebrate all of our amazing qualities.
To get us started, HPA students Nehemiah and Lexi will show us what the hype is about.
Hi, I'm Nehemiah, and this is High Point Academy. It's not your average school. We are a tuition-free public charter school, and we go from kindergarten to 12th grade.
Hi, I'm Lexi. It's 3 schools all on one campus, and everyone here wears uniforms every day, so getting ready in the morning is so much easier.
We are STEAM-focused: science, technology, engineering, the arts, and mathematics. We also have lots of hands-on learning.
Another thing that sets us apart is our fine arts program. We have 2 dance studios, piano, guitar, chorus, music, and art.
And it's showcased here in our Performing Arts Center, where technical theater creates scenes just like this.
Yeah, everything we do here prepares us for the real world. Of course, we have our traditional academic courses, but we also offer college dual enrollment, business classes, and career and technology courses. We even have our own student-run print shop where we can print just about everything.
Honor, integrity, service. We were founded on those principles, so character building, leadership training, and community service are a part of who we are in the class, or on the court.
Welcome to the Den, home of the Grizzlies and a bunch of our games and student events. You have a choice when it comes to your education. Choose excellence. Choose family.
Thank you, Nehemiah and Lexi.
That was a great introduction to our viewers about our amazing school.
Up next, Mason and Kingston will introduce us to some great Grizzly students.
Now that you've learned a little bit about High Point Academy, we want you to know that our school's top priority is students. HPA puts kids first. Hey, get back down there! Here to tell us about his experience as a Grizzly is third grader Josiah. Let's hear what he shares about the things he has learned in his time here.
I have been here since kindergarten. This is my 4th year here, and I've been here ever since. I like coming to school because the teachers are friends, and I feel proud because I have learned how to do multiplication and division. I love coming to High Point Academy.
Mason, is that you? Sure. Thanks, Josiah, for sharing your student experience. Next, we would like to welcome another great Grizzly, Olivia.
I would tell somebody to come to High Point Academy because it's a good school and you get a good education here. The teachers are really, really nice and you can make really good friends here. I like waking up in the morning and knowing I can see my friends, and I get to come to school every day, see my teachers, and have really good related arts and really good classes.
Are you sure you're Mason? Mm-hmm. Thanks, Olivia. Please welcome Caitlin and Kevin. They'll be introducing some VIPs, very important parents.
Mm-hmm. Hi, I'm Kevin.
And I'm Caitlin.
We're excited for you to hear from Mr. Chin
and Miss Dawkins,
two involved and excited High Point parents. That's your cue, Mr. Chin.
What separates High Point Academy and other schools, that they do or take actions, not just on what they say and what they advertise. But if you come here and learn and get to talk to people and get an update, a true update on what's going on, they actually are doing what they say they're going to do, or at least taking steps, and they keep everyone apprised to that, the status and reaching our goals. It's a public school that has private school benefits and perks.
Thanks for your time, Mr. Chin.
Now Miss Dawkins will tell us her story.
One of the best things I like about High Point is both of my children have been able to survive and succeed at High Point. They feel like they're part of a community and they're willing to interact and help out with others. My favorite part of the school is how they treat everybody like family, and everybody's welcome here.
Thank you, Miss Dawkins, for showing us how awesome our school is and how much your sons have grown here.
And also thank you for saying that our school is safe and fun.
Next up, we have Maya and Kinley introducing us to a top-notch teacher.
Hello. Here's one of our amazing teachers, Miss Gubser.
She will discuss what she loves most about teaching in our wonderful school.
My favorite part of teaching children at High Point Academy is that we are allowed to do what's best for our students. If we have a lesson and it's not working, we can come in tomorrow and start something different. We don't have to go by a book. We don't have someone else coming in telling us what we have to do. If we see that a lesson is resonating with our students, we can carry on and keep going with that book or with that theme. Whereas if the lesson is not working, we can also cut that and shift to something else that works better for the students that we have.
Thank you, Miss Gubser. That was a great explanation to our viewers about your time teaching at High Point Academy.
That's all, folks. Have a amazing day. Bye. Did you hear about that thing I came
To end our show, we have a word from our superintendent, Mr. Sherman.
If you are working on something that you really care about, you don't have to be pushed. The vision pulls you.
Thank you for watching our special report. I hope you recognize how great of a school High Point really is. Our mission is cultivating lifelong learners in a student-centered environment.
And our vision is to be an exemplary school of choice for our academically minded families.
We hope we have shown you that today. You have a choice. Choose excellence. Choose family. Choose High Point.
Miss Huckabee, our librarian, is the one that runs the Grizzly Gallery. We stand at Miss Huckabee so they can see you. She's been doing this all year.
Now, we're just going to offer this for vote. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I think we have a motion and a second, Madam Chair. We just
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So now all we have to do, any discussion? I think we've had a lot of discussion already on this, yeah. Okay. All in favor of the renewal of High Point Academy's charter, please indicate by raising your hand or aye.
Aye.
Okay. We'll record that as 6 votes.
I believe it's everyone but Dr. Pope.
Okay, everyone but Dr. Pope, okay. Okay, thank you. Now we go on to Low Country Montessori School renewal. Oh, we're going to do the picture. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that warning.
Give them a round of applause. Don't forget, we have lunch afterwards.
We never forget lunch.
Got enough room?
I'll get better. Yeah. I'm sorry. Okay, that's good. Okay, next on our agenda is the renewal, always a happy occasion, of Low Country Montessori School renewal. Kristen is stepping back up into place. We're ready to hear what you have to say.
Okay. Low Country Montessori School, or LMS, is the only public school in South Carolina offering a Montessori high school program. Located in Beaufort, the school serves pre-K through 12th grade students. The school's mission is to provide an authentic Montessori program, building a foundation of lifelong learning. Mixed-age classrooms promote collaboration and are an essential component of the school's model. Classroom design fosters student inquiry and discovery, and as Maria Montessori intended, learning activities are hands-on as often as possible. Teachers observe, evaluate, and continuously adjust to meet the needs of their students. Low Country Montessori provides the environment and experience to allow students to flourish academically with an overarching goal of helping students become independent, responsible, critical thinkers, and compassionate individuals. Middle school students at LMS experience a land lab where they practice life skills, learn the history of cultures and sustainability practices, and build community. High school students have opportunities to participate in service and learning projects, internships, and community give-back programs. Students also dedicate time to nonprofits on and off campus. Because the leadership at Low Country Montessori has been the same for the life of the school, it has fostered a strong sense of community and a positive school culture. For 3 of the last 5 years, LMS has complied with the 75% staffing requirement. Currently, the school is out of compliance with 67% of its staff certified. The school anticipates increasing enrollment to 477 students in the 24-25 school year and maintaining the same enrollment through the 2033-34 school year. As of the school's 45th day, students of color comprised approximately 31% of its population. Beaufort County School District, LMS's resident district, consists of 63% minority students. 51% of LMS students are identified as pupils in poverty, while 58% of students served in Beaufort County are identified as students in poverty. Although LMS has not met the demographic requirements outlined in the Charter Act for the past 3 years, it has increased its diversity each year. The school's enrollment strategies to address the demographic disparity include community outreach involving current LMS families of color, outreach with local churches, community festivals, and advertisements mailed to targeted areas. Since 2018, LMS has generally received average ratings on the South Carolina State Report Cards. It has experienced mixed results in subgroup performance. However, it is important to note that the school has experienced a significant increase in the enrollment of students with disabilities and other needs. LMS is making progress in addressing these needs while working to build their academic performance. Low Country Montessori's annual report submissions have been timely, and the school successfully met all goals on its most annual report submitted in December 2023. The school has experienced steady enrollment increases since 2021 and projects enrollment capacity in 2025. A financial review shows fiscal year 2023 ending fund balance of over $830,000, or 52.8% of general fund expenditures. The school has submitted a clean annual financial audit for the past 3 years, and the 10-year budget reflects a yearly net income to increase the fund balance. Material changes in the school's renewal include revised charter goals. Academic goals include K-8 MAP reading and math goals, end-of-course exam goals for high school students, and graduation rate goals. Goals measuring satisfaction with the learning environment, the physical and social environment, and home and school relations are also included. Based on an analysis of the school's academic, financial, and operational performance, the site visit conducted by PCSD staff, and a review of renewal materials submitted by the school, staff recommends approval of the renewal of Low Country Montessori School's charter and contract. This recommendation is also based on sound operations at Low Country Montessori and the promising academic growth demonstrated over the 10-year term of its charter. Thank you. The school does have a slideshow, an informative slideshow that may answer some of your questions, so you may want to ask questions after they do the presentation.
After the slideshow.
So,
Good,
thank you.
Good morning. My name is Amy Horn. I'm the director of Low Country Montessori School, and we're super excited to be here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our school. We have a very small, family-oriented school located in Beaufort, South Carolina. We serve 3-year-olds all the way through 12th grade, and we have about 375 students. You can see a little bit of our campus here, and I'm going to kind of go through with you what we do that makes our school so special. We were a team of committee members that were in a Montessori school that developed the charter, and we were all drawn to this because we saw what it did for our own children and wanted to spread this to children that would normally not have the ability to go to a Montessori school because Montessori is generally private. And we were drawn to it because we know that it works based on our observations with the children. We're seeing now that neuroscience is actually supporting the methodology and actually looking at the brain and what it does to the brain. It supports the whole child, which is what we've heard of in education coming the last probably 20 years. But Maria Montessori has been doing this for over 100 years. It also supports academic, social, and emotional aspects and provides a lot of independence for the child, develops intrinsic motivation, and provides a safe space for those who learn differently. We have a very high population of neurodivergent children because parents of those children are drawn to the methodology. We also practice restorative practices in our community, have a peace curriculum, and so we're learning, or these children are learning how to navigate that aspects and that emotional intelligence, which is so important in everyday life. So, some of the things that our environment provides and helps produce innovative thinkers are the prepared environment. Our campus is a beautiful campus. Every classroom has access to outdoor space, and so you'll see children learning inside the classroom as well as outside the classroom. We have 2 gardening ecology teachers that take children on small groups each week and do different things in the gardens with them. We provide personal reflection in our middle school classroom, which is a really perfect time for that because their brains are rewiring at this point, and we really want them to get to know themselves. And so they spend 30 minutes with a curriculum reflecting on different perspectives, and they have cues from the curriculum of what to write or to reflect on each day. In our high school, we have what we call a self-construction strand. And as freshmen, they go in and they take a class that is called Self and Social Responsibility. So as middle schoolers, they're learning about themselves. As 9th graders, they're learning how they fit socially into their world and what their responsibilities are in their community. And then as 10th graders, they take a speech class, which is just basically how do they communicate that with others. 11th grade takes a theory of knowledge class, which is part of our curriculum, and they're learning the great philosophers, the modern day philosophers, and then they're developing their own life philosophy. And then as seniors, they do a senior project based on something of interest. So it's a year-long project that they develop. We also provide lots of opportunity for service learning. On our campus, off our campus, our high schoolers go into the community about twice a month for a half day and work with different organizations in our community. We also have a give back program that works on our campus with our high schoolers where they learn the ins and outs of the Montessori philosophy, and they go into the classrooms and in the office space and they help navigate the ins and outs of our school. And like I said before, we do restorative practices. So it's not about giving a consequence to a child when they make a choice. It's about seeing their part in that choice and how to restore the relationship that they may have harmed with the adult or the child, or sometimes it's the adult to the child, because we all make mistakes in our lives, and sometimes it's about the adult making that right with the child. Provide opportunities for internships in middle school, and then every classroom is run by a community meeting. So from the time that they're 3 years old, they're having those daily meetings and making choices and problem solving for their smaller community within their classroom, and then it goes to a larger scale as they get older. And like Kristen mentioned, we have land labs. The children in the middle school work the land in 7th and 8th grade, and then every child has overnight trips each year starting in 1st grade. And so we go out into the community, and those are based around the academics they're studying that year. So what's gone well over the past 10 years? A lot has gone well. If we're looking at statistics, we have had a pretty decent graduation rate stretched over the last several years. We do have a very small class. Generally, it's between, we've had as small as 14 up to 25, I think, each year graduate. And we are fortunate to have students who are on the non-diploma track and an inclusion model in our school. And so the fortunate piece is that they're with us and they get to take on a practical life. We call it practical life strand in that high school, even though they're on a non-diploma track, but they are integrated with the students and they grow tremendously. And I think that our regular education children also grow from having those experiences. The unfortunate part is that impacts our graduation rate. And every year we have 1 or 2 that's graduating, and because it's become such an amazing space for children who learn differently, we're attracting those families, and I think in the next few years we're going to see that increase. So the graduation rate is impacted by that, but we see it as a positive. And we also have a huge interest in our community. As you can see, in the past 5 years, we've tripled our enrollment applications, even though our enrollment has not increased. We are in the process of building a new facility addition, so we're super excited about that. We're packed as sardines in our current facility, which we love, but we're adding an open-air gym, a dedicated high school space, a science lab, a community meeting space, a yoga room, a culinary kitchen, a cafe, a maker space, and an art space. And that was slatted to be finished in August. Unfortunately, that's been pushed back, so we're looking at November, December. And so when Kristen wrote that, our projections, we're trying to figure out what our projections are going to be in our enrollment next year, and those may slightly shift. We're trying to figure out how to pack more children into our current facility until it's finished. So. Staff retention is also one of the things that's gone really well. We are a very small school. We have around 60 staff, and each year we have between 1 and 3 staff members that leave us to go somewhere else. But I think that one of the things is the culture and the climate of our facility and our school is so great that people want to stay, even though we are not paying as much as Beaufort County Schools. Beaufort County Schools are the highest paying schools in the state, I believe, and we do not compare, but yet we have a very dedicated staff, so that's a really, I think, says a lot about our school. I'm going to play a short video.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space. With the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along
So what's been a challenge for LMS? Definitely meshing Montessori with state requirements. It's a very different curriculum. I think that's been our biggest struggle, honestly. Things happen at different times. There's multi-aged classrooms. The materials are very different, and the lessons are very different than what's presented on state testing. So trying to figure out how to make what they're learning mirror what the test says has been a challenge. Funding is also a challenge. I wish I had $6.8 million in the bank. Montessori is a very expensive program. It requires a teacher and an assistant in every classroom until 6th grade. It also requires a lot of manipulative materials that are expensive, as well as the furnishings that go along with that, and the training of teachers that we send. Each teacher costs roughly about $15,000 that we send to training for the Montessori credential. So that's always at the back. You saw our playground, which is wonderful, but a lot of that was made by our staff. So we make it work, but that definitely is something that we do beautiful things with the amount of money that we have, but we would like more. Qualified staffing, to find qualified staffing in Beaufort County that has Montessori experience is always a struggle. We generally will find someone that either has been in our school and shown to be a good employee and send to training, or hopefully find somebody that has Montessori experience outside of our school. And then expansion of our facility. We've been working on this about 4.5 years now, and finally are breaking ground and moving forward, so we're super excited. Opportunities for growth for us. We've done a big focus on reading interventions over the past several years, and the past few years we've been very intentional about hitting it hard with our math interventions. We hired a math interventionist to increase the test scores across the board. And we're excited to provide a free Montessori education to an additional 75 to 80 students in South Carolina, and providing a safe space for students who learn differently. This is one of the most beautiful things that I have watched over my 10-year career at LMS, but it's also really challenging to have parents saying, oh, bring your children here, and then trying to staff that and trying to make sure that, because we are inclusion, we don't have a classroom just dedicated to students who learn differently. And so integrating all of those students into the classroom is exciting. And then continue to promote for diversity. That is a big drive for us and our student population and our staff, and we have seen that increase over the past few years. Transportation is probably the biggest, it's the biggest challenge for our families, and we know that, we've seen that. We've had families that have actually declined spots because of that, because they don't have the means to get their children there. So we're hoping that there might be some money for transportation so we can actually have that and continue to increase.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now we'll go into any discussions. Yes, Dexter.
Yes, I certainly would like to say to you, commend you and your team for what you're doing in that demographic. I retired from a previous life and taught biology for 2 years at Battery Creek High School. So I know the challenges that you have in that demographic. So the numbers really don't speak to me in a negative term. I know what you're trying to accomplish. So my question to you, is there any strategic alignment with the Marines in Parris Island as far as strategic implementation of STEAM and academic support?
We have not utilized the Marines except for some of their facilities. They've been partnering with us, and
they have service hours. They come
on campus and help us. Right, but as far as, our curriculum is Montessori, and there's definitely a part of science and technology and arts and all of that integrated into it, but it's very specific in what we do as far as how it's taught and how the community is built and what the guides do within the classroom.
They have what we call study guides at a high school level, and so they're given the work generally for a week or two, and then there's small lessons that happen over 20 to 30 minutes of the class, and then they're able to work with their peers, with the teacher, and move along at their pace, if that makes sense, at the high school level.
Okay, thank you. Secondly, how much is your capital campaign going to be? That I know you're breaking ground on a couple of things.
Yeah, we have a loan from USDA, and that loan is for right at $8 million.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes. Dr. Pope.
I just have a comment. I commend you on doing what you can to increase the demographics and include more minority students, but having tutored a child who went to a Montessori school, also the challenge of making sure that the curriculum fits the testing. Have you all considered having some kind of workshop or someone come in to help students with the testing, because it's not the same as the way they're tested in Montessori school?
Yes, we have done a lot of staff development with the staff. Sometimes it's just tweaking the vocabulary and then presenting it and showing children how they can draw the manipulatives. And so the staff, we have a reading coach that has primary, lower, and upper elementary training, and she's very well versed in Montessori, and so she works closely with our staff on that, and she is working with them on those pieces to try to tweak it. Also, getting them on the computers. We're not computer heavy because at that age, developmentally, we want them to use the manipulatives because we know that the science says that it's solidifying connections between the hemispheres in the brain. And so getting those students and having them practice taking tests on the computer is a push too, because I think that sometimes the people who are proctoring the test will see the kids just kind of pressing the button because they just want to get through it. They're not really taking it super serious. And so it's a fine line between getting the children to understand that it's important, but not making them anxious about taking the test. And we do have, because we are not so heavy teach to the test and all of that, we have a lot of families that come to us because they're aligned with that piece too, or their children are challenged by the stress of testing and all of those things. So it's one of those things we're trying to navigate as best we can, but there's also a lot of different things that feed into that, if that makes sense.
But you've done a wonderful job of aligning your struggles to your goals.
Yes.
Yes.
We're working on it. So.
Thank you, Dr. Pope. I've just been reminded by my parliamentarian that we need actually for discussion on this a motion pertinent to the renewal of this charter of Low Country Montessori. Do I hear?
I move that we accept the staff's recommendation.
Second.
Okay, we can jump to that. Okay, any discussion, further discussion on that? Yes.
I had just a few questions.
Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for your PowerPoint. Wanted to ask a quick first question is about enrollment. So on the form, it says you had 343 in November. You mentioned 375. So that's a 30 student jump just in December, January. Is that about where you are now?
We've always been right around, actually, I think we were higher. We actually kind of over-enroll a little bit in each classroom because our teachers, they prefer to have more students and let it matriculate, if that makes sense. So we were always right around 370, 375.
Okay. No, I just looking at what was on the
that must be a
materials that we
typo.
have. No, that's okay. So then in 2025, you're looking to move to about 450, which is about another 100 kids. Similar to my question to the last school, why do you anticipate a 100 student jump? That's pretty significant, and that would be very significant considering where you were in 2021.
So we're looking at adding about 50 more next year. We're working with our accountant to see how that plays out with our new addition. So, and then adding the other 25 to 30 the following year.
We have a wait list for our elementary program, primary and elementary program. That's always the biggest wait list that we have. So we're adding another primary, lower, and upper elementary. And then we probably will add a few more high school students because we'll have more space in that area. But it's where our community shows the most need.
Yeah, the waiting list makes sense. If you have them on the wait list, you're just going to add them. Yeah, that makes sense. So I have a question about the elementary achievement, because looking back to 2018, 2019, it looks like you haven't been above average since 2018, 2019. So my first question is for you, and then Mr. Superintendent. So my first question is, so if you could say a word or two, if you haven't already, above what you've given on the PowerPoint, about what you want to do to address that. And then Mr. Superintendent, has the district addressed that with them, that they've been below average since 2018, 2019?
And I'm going to turn it over to Bain. She's our compliance coordinator.
Hello. So this is actually my first year at LMS. I had 18 years in traditional public school, and I walked away from it for Montessori. And so I invite you, I'm going to answer your question, but I invite you, if you've never walked into a Montessori world, to come and experience that. In 30 minutes, you will have this aha moment of, oh, this is what this is, and this is how this works. So to speak to the low, it is really just in math. If you're looking at that, we are at the state percentile in reading or above pretty much consistently every year. And that goes across all grade levels from elementary to high school. Math is where we have been hit hard as far as the percentiles in the test scores, especially since 2018. And we're focusing on that in two ways. One, we are fortunate to be able to hire a math interventionist, where in a lot of traditional public schools, it's reading, and they don't get the funds to be able to do the math intervention. So we're now able to hire a math interventionist, and some of our other interventionists can also incorporate math skills. The other thing that we are doing is, because we're a Montessori school and in a Montessori classroom, we go from concrete to abstract, and that's the Montessori philosophy, that children learn at a young age very concretely. Somewhere that they're studying place value and they're studying number concepts, they're holding 1,000. You saw in the video they have it all lined out so they can see. Well, when we come to a state test and we have a calculator, which we don't use, and we have all of those things, the kids get kind of stuck, because where are my concrete materials? My brain isn't ready for this abstract question, but yet here I am with this abstract thought process. So our math interventionists are able to pull in and pull out and push into the classroom to be able to take those abstract concepts and be able to teach it in that way, to be able to ask those questions and taking away some of those manipulatives and saying, okay, this is how we're going to do this with the tools that you were given. We're able to take those required tests like MAP, and we are breaking them down into the strategies and pushing them out to the teachers to say, this is where you're needing to focus, and these are the types of questions that you need to ask the children and observe that they're getting, and making sure that they can flip to that more abstract concept when the spring comes around. And so I do think we're seeing a trend. Our high school is, you can see if you look at our math data last year in high school, we outscored the state. So they're getting it when their abstract concept is ready. It's just trying to teach them how to use those tools in the lower setting that is a challenge, but I really think that we're facing it head on.
Well, I think y'all know my philosophy on this is, I think the flaw is in the report card and the tests and assessments.
Amen.
And not the school model. And I agree with Amy, the two don't mix. And so that's why we advocated on behalf of all of our schools that the state report card not be the letter of judgment for our schools, and instead we work with our schools directly to assess their performance academically, through governance, finance, and so forth. So I will just say that I think the Montessori method of providing learning and instruction for children highlights the flaw in America in state assessments and testing. And instead, we need to be looking at the whole child and the health and well-being of the child, and how they're doing in that method versus an arbitrary test that does not align with their curriculum and instructional model.
Very good, thank you. One other question about, so high school, the high school was not rated last year. Why was that?
So in order for a high school, Madam Chair, trustees, in order for a high school to get a rating, you have to have sufficient in size. And so typically we see that with a few of our schools, that they just don't have the in size of students to generate the individual metrics that would then go into the overall rating. And so for Low Country Montessori, they were in that situation this particular past year.
Okay, that makes sense, thank you. Do you have a timeline on the question about certification for teachers? Is there a timeline for when they would be in compliance?
Yes, we have, thankfully, South Carolina gives an alternative certification process for Montessori teachers, and we currently have, sorry, let me just, 3 that are in training. Is that right? Yes. Right, yeah, we have 3 that are in training that will have their certification by the 135th day. And then we also have 3 that are doing the CTE certification right now.
Great, thank you. Just a couple more, if that's okay.
Yes.
And so shifting to another topic. All right, so on restorative justice. So if I can ask, so if a student brought a weapon to school, how would you address that?
That's one of the big 3.
Okay, so help me with that. Big
yeah,
3.
if they brought a gun to school, they would be expelled.
Okay, so you have a zero tolerance policy on that.
Well, that's the law.
Okay, so if a student was violent.
And that would be our policy anyways, just saying.
Okay. Okay, all right. So if a student committed a violent act, not with, so weapons aside, so if they committed a violent act on another student, how would you address that?
I think it would depend on the act, the severity, what happened before the act. We look at all of that because generally people just don't randomly harm someone. There's usually a story behind what happened before, and so we bring in all involved. We spend a lot of our time doing that. We give a voice to all children that were involved, even the person that is the perpetrator or whatever you want to call that. But yeah, you have to, because there's a story behind any kind of, I don't know what happened before they got to school that day. I don't know what happens in their homes every day. I don't, have that insight, and so you have to get to the bottom of it, and you have to give everybody a voice and make sure, and there's logical consequences. There's always, a consequence if somebody makes a bad choice, but it needs to make sense, and then we need to restore the relationship, because if we don't restore the relationship, they're going to go back into that environment, and they're going to do it again. So it's all about that piece.
All right, last one. So on the use of suspension and expulsion, what is your general policy on suspension and expulsion?
It varies based on the situation. Except for with the extremes, obviously. If somebody brings drugs on our campus, we recommend to the board expulsion. If somebody brings a weapon onto campus, we recommend expulsion. If there is a significant violent attack, we would recommend for expulsion.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Thank you guys for your presentation this morning. I just had a quick question about your non-diploma track. I'm very intrigued by that. How do you recruit students for your non-diploma track?
We don't recruit. It's word of mouth, parents talking to other parents. Currently, we have 2 6th graders that are going to be moving up next year that will be on the non-diploma track. We have 2 in our middle school that are likely going to be on the non-diploma track. And we have 2 younger students that will likely be on the non-diploma track right now in our school. So there's probably about 6 identified that will likely be on that track. Obviously, we give them the opportunity when they step into high school to earn a diploma.
Sure.
But the parents are aware and the staff is aware that that's the likelihood.
Do you have any demographic data on those students that potentially might be on this track? Race, yeah, just,
So they're completely, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to-
No, go ahead.
So they're completely mixed. We
Okay.
have Hispanic.
Please speak into the mic.
yeah, please, yeah.
They're completely mixed. We have Hispanic, we have African American, even mix of boy-girl as far as ages. And the really neat thing is I've been able to see some of these kids in the traditional public school where I used to work, and now they're at the Montessori program. And because it's all inclusion, there is no self-contained, because the world is not self-contained. So they have to be able to learn how to navigate with their community and get along. So we may have a high school student who may have autism, and he's not going to get a diploma, but he's going to work on the technology in the school and learn those life skills, our own technology, our computers, our whatever. They have to work in small group with neurotypical children, and they have to be a part. And when they have presentations, they have to be a part of those presentations. So when you're in an algebra class, or you're in an English class, or you're in a lower L class, or a primary class, they're all still working together. I may not be getting a diploma, but I'm still in Algebra 1, and I'm doing what I can do, and the teacher is in there meeting me, so I get that exposure. And then because we all grew up as a community, those children are helping me. Hey, wait a minute, Bain, we're going to do it this way, and you're going to come up and you're going to present with me because you're part of my community, and I'm going to rise you up and lift you up when you may not be able to do it for yourself. And so that's really, really cool. We are 100% inclusion 100% of the time.
No, thank you for that. I truly like the integrated model of learning. I think it makes perfectly good sense, so
Yeah,
thank you
it's
for that.
beautiful to watch, for sure.
Thank you, Stephen. I think
I just, y'all know how I feel about children with disabilities, and so I want to commend the whole school community on the fact that you are demonstrating inclusion the way it should be. No kids should be segregated within the building. They should be with their peers. That's how they learn, but that's how their peers learn. I would also say that this district is leading the way in South Carolina for an inclusive standard diploma for our students with disabilities. And I think, quite frankly, your school would be one of the pilot schools that we should partner with on that effort. So I'm going to, Amy, challenge you and Susan Howard to get together as we start to develop what that looks like.
Absolutely.
Every child should have an opportunity to reach their full potential, and that includes a standard high school diploma.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to look like everybody else's,
Absolutely.
because everybody has different abilities.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's good.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had one, any other questions?
Only a comment.
Okay.
In the public schools district that I worked in and was superintendent, we had Montessori as a choice. And we went through the middle school there. And it was a very successful program. Parents, again, signed up. We had problems with too many wanting, and, those types of things. I do amen Chris's both comments, but the one about requirements and how do you maneuver it and test scores, those types of things, that was a continual headache, trying to deal with no reflection on the State Department. And I think we've got to, again, echoing Chris's comments, we've got to look at things differently, and we don't do that sometime in the state. We just, everything's in a box. If it's not in a box, it don't work. But, in today's world, we've got to move on from that. And I know the enthusiasm of Montessori, I saw it for years, and the people who come, they love it, and they're there. And I just say, continue your hard work and your fight to solve some problems with the State Department. I think we have people there now who are hopefully will be more willing to listen, and legislators who are aware of the situation, and the governor and everyone else, that we can continue. So just continue that fight, and thank you for what you all do.
Thank you. I had one last question. My question's on the other end of the football field, and it is, for those students in your cohort that appear to show the ability to move on through the well, I'll call it the normative system, how are you responding to them, guiding them, noticing them, tracking, whatever, so, because within that set, if there's a subset there that would like to go to college or whatever they would like to pursue. So you have that kind of diversity within your mix, and how do you guide those?
We absolutely do. We have students who go to four-year colleges on a full ride. We have students who go straight out into the workforce. We celebrate them all. And we have a counselor at the middle and high school level that works with our students in career paths and college tracks. And we also have a high school guide that is very well versed in scholarships and working with those students with FAFSAs and getting them in and getting their applications in and working with those families. So we have a really great staff that helps support that piece. And as far as pushing students, we follow them and push them in the direction that they want to go. So every child gets their needs met. And that, that's the child who struggles to the child who, thrives and school is easy for them, but we're pushing them, having them go in, following their interest a lot too in the high school, because there's a lot of project-based pieces that go along with the high school and student-led things that the teachers, yeah, and then, do you want to speak to that since you're, yeah.
We also have sorry, I'm the talker, so, but we also have an individualized report card. So unlike a traditional school where Amy is there and it's A, B, C, D, pass, fail, because we're in these grade bands, we have the opportunity for differentiation at its highest. Mm-hmm. So I may be working here in math and here in reading and all over the place, but each student, until they get high school, has an individualized report card for themselves based on what standard they know at that very moment. So every guide is able to sit down with the parent and say, this is what they're doing well. It's not a grade. This is what they've mastered, and this is what they're doing well, and this is what they're working on, and this is what we have to have, some more focus with. And so by the time they get to high school, you've individually tracked, progress monitoring at its highest, individually tracked from 3 years old, how they're working, what their strengths are, and because you're individually tracking them, you're able to quickly adjust. They can do it. We can get them to high school diploma. Or, I don't know, we need to maybe focus and let's just reassess again, because I'm individually monitoring each student.
Very in touch and in touch perspective on education.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
we have a question and a possibility. With that demographic being so not as full, but at the same time very competitive with private and public education, is there a potential collaboration between what you offer and, say, for example, a kid that's in homeschool?
When you say collaboration, like
they have the flexibility to come and do some of the abstract learning, and that's part of that curriculum. But as you seek to gain more enrollment, we have toyed with the idea. Sarah and I on weekends have talked a little bit about that, what that would look like. At the present time, we are at full capacity with our full-time students that I don't know how we would even make room for a couple hours a week for students on our campus. Although, we're open to something like that once we get our building built. But I don't know how that would look and how the funds would be and I don't know. Something to maybe talk to Chris about.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Now we're ready for the vote, yes. We'll proceed now with the vote for the renewal, granting the renewal charter for the Look Country Montessori School. It was a great, it was like a group session. So it's good. Do I hear all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Oh, no, opposed.
None opposed. None opposed. Okay, unanimous.
Yes.
Congratulations. This is just information.
No, these are still action.
Still action, everything in
Y'all gotta
action.
vote on the AFA.
We gotta vote on it. He's gonna present it.
John Payne.
Okay. We don't over motion, just
Yep,
let it
same.
come up.
You'll have to
We'll
do
have
a
to-
motion, and
okay.
the same thing, any
Okay.
discussion.
Okay. Okay, John. Next, we'll go to D, Public Charter School District Accountability System. And we, if I'm understanding this correctly, we need a motion to get into this issue, is that right? Or just for the
No,
vote?
he's
gonna
He's
present.
gonna present, and then
And
you'll
then
have
what?
to take a vote.
Vote, okay,
Right.
good, thank you. That means you're go.
Okay.
You're on go, okay.
Madam Chair, trustees, good morning, I think. Thank you all so much for being here. So this morning I'm going to share for you, for your consideration and vote, information about our new public charter school district accountability model that we have styled the AFO Index, obviously academics, finance, and operations. To give you a little bit of background, of course, this is required under the Charter Act, and so what we did last year is we convened a representative stakeholder group of school leaders from our schools. We had several meetings with them in the fall. We talked about accountability research and considerations. We identified some priorities that then led to metrics. One priority that makes our system unique that's not in most accountability systems is having some skin in the game ourselves. So if you conceive this from the federal perch, the federal The U.S. Department of Education requires regulations and then provides funding down to states. States then impose regulations down to districts and schools. But it always doesn't go the opposite way. And so we felt it important to evaluate and hold ourselves accountable. So there's a district component to this as well. Other things that was really important is just the ability to have this in plain speak language. If you've ever looked at the South Carolina report card or certainly read the Consolidated Federal and State Accountability Manual, very few, if any, parents and families can understand that. So we really wanted an approach that was readily understood and would be able to meet all the requirements of the Charter Act. We also considered various reports, so those from the OIG and LAC. We revisited the AFO because of some work that Superintendent Neely did to give us additional relief with respect to the state report cards and to ensure alignment. So in 23, we undertook a number of tasks to gear up for this, one of which, and I won't read all of these, but one of these was we used Epicenter, which is the way that we typically gather data or information from schools. That's how they submit. We went through and took a look at all of those tasks. We removed tasks. We consolidated so as to decrease the reporting burden. We also made some additions to our website by curating some more resources. We developed a district data center so that when the State Department provides student-level data files, we can give those very quickly to our schools so they have almost immediate access to those back-end data files from the department. An online calendar, standardizing surveys, and Deputy Superintendent Emily Baker created and crafted a visit template that we can use in a standardized way for us to gather information when we do our school site visits. So we've done quite a bit to gear up for this. So we'll first start with the school level, and from a very high level, these are the items or the metrics or the components that we're going to look at. I hope, as you note, in looking at this, that academics weighs more than the other two areas. And core team really felt that important because closing the achievement gap and expecting high academic excellence are the goal of the Charter Act. So we wanted to make sure that we prioritized academics in this system. But nevertheless, finance and operations are still critical to the viability and success of charter schools, so we included those as well. So the first of these, and you may have to consult your printed copy due to this slide, but the very first of these under academics is ensuring academic excellence. This aligns with the Charter Act. And so what we will look for in this particular is whether or not the school's SMART goal related to academic excellence, have they been successful in meeting that goal as measured through their annual report and as and if necessary confirmation of those data as well. If a school does not have, most of our schools do, but if a school does not have a SMART goal that demonstrates academic excellence relative to their innovative program, we will look at whether or not students are increasing by 5% or more on state summative assessments from the prior year. So is there growth? Why 5%? Well, 5% is really just a variance of enrollment patterns and trends. So then if a school meets that goal or they increase, they have met that and they've been successful. If perhaps they've met it in some areas, they met it in ELA but not math, that would be partial. Or if they don't achieve their SMART goal or they do not increase, then they would not meet that goal. And then we would have a measure as well for baseline for schools that are establishing their baseline after year one, after renewals, just as Low Country Montessori and High Point Academy are doing, as well as amendments, but amendments asterisk there just because we will ensure that there's no circumvention for accountability. And this will be a metric that will be displayed. The second metric under the academic side is really about closing the achievement gap. So pretty much everything I just said in terms of measurement applies here, only here we're looking at whether the school has a SMART goal that attends to closing the achievement gap for historically low performing students to typically performing students. If they do not have this kind of subgroup goal or this achievement gap goal, we will look to see whether or not they are closing the achievement gap for students of color, students with disabilities, and state summative assessments in English, language arts, and mathematics, or a formative assessment if we have a school that does not give a summative assessment. You'll see met, partially met, not met, and baseline as considerations for how we would evaluate this specific one, and noting that if a school does not have a SMART goal, we'll be getting in touch with them very soon so that they have an opportunity to get that right as we launch this. Sometimes, as Chief Farmer shared a little earlier, schools have other goals, and so this metric really is to capture any other goals that a school may have in their charter, and just ensuring whether or not they met those goals, or they partially met them, or they did not meet them. And again, with a baseline metric for that too. Charter innovation. You have witnessed this morning 2 schools that are demonstrating innovation in various ways. And so it was important for us as we talked through this to create an opportunity for schools to be held accountable and demonstrate their success in the various models, innovation, programming as they commit to in their charter. And so really what we're looking there is that they're demonstrating that success, and innovation models and programming is good standing. So really what we're looking there is, are they doing what they're saying they're going to doing, and are they compliant within that, within those programmings? So we will look to see things like, do they have any notices of noncompliance or uncorrected noncompliance, as well as creating sort of a rubric to ensure that the fidelity of implementation is there. Again, this time there's no partial, but it's just met, not met, or establishing baseline. The 5th one deals with charter staffing. Chief Farmer has already talked about this, where a school has to have 75% or higher certified teaching staff. Deputy Superintendent Baker and her team extracts those data quarterly, and so for a school to meet here, we're saying that you've maintained that certification requirement, which is a requirement of the Charter Act, throughout the year. Partially is maybe you're kind of up and down. Not met is if a school has less than 75% certified throughout the year and has not improved compared to the prior year. Again, an establishing baseline would be applicable for this one too, as they get their staff on board. Then we move into finance. So the first of these obviously is one that we talk about quite a bit before this body, which is our school's annual audits and our district audit. And so what we're looking for there is to ensure that a school submits a timely audit and has no material findings. So met or successful is going to be an on-time audit with no material findings. Partially met, they've submitted on time, maybe they have a couple of findings. But if they submit a late audit or if they get repeat findings, then we're going to say they did not meet that requirement. And that's just to ensure viability and success in their school's finances. And of course, the baseline would be, starting out with that very first annual audit that they have to complete. The second component within this is one that Deputy Superintendent Michael talked about earlier, which is about a sustainable budget. So for there, we're going to look to ensure that the school has and maintains a sustainable fund balance and cash on hand, and those requirements are 30 days in 1 month. As you heard from I believe High Point Academy, theirs is more aggressive, which is fine. The basis, though, is you have to have 30 days in 1 month for a sustainable fund balance and cash on hand.
I think we might have missed that page. Did you see it? Mm-hmm. You did it. Okay, for some reason I don't see it. Okay, excuse me. Thank you.
Okay. Then we move into operations. As you recall, a couple of board meetings ago, Destiny Grant presented our robust work around how we are going to and how we are now supporting our schools' boards. We've got a lot of positive feedback already from our schools' board members with respect to the newsletters that are going out and the other materials we're sharing. But really what we're looking for at this is ensuring that our boards adhere to the required board training in the Charter Act, board meeting requirements as required under the South Carolina Charter Act as well as the South Carolina FOIA. And so there we're going to be looking at training percentages. Are they getting trained within that first year of taking office? Are they posting meeting agendas? Are they posting meeting minutes? And so you can see we will identify those as met, partially met, or not met with their board governance. Representative demographics. So this is one where we've talked about already again today. It's a school whose demographics are within 20% of the residential district in which it resides, or has a demonstrated reasonable plan to achieve the 20%, both of which are permitted under the Charter Act. So we will use that using PowerSchool data, as well as capturing those plans from schools, some of which you've already heard about today in terms of how our schools are working to increase the diversity of their student enrollment. So MET would be they're within it, or they have a reasonable plan to do it, or they're not met is when they don't meet it and they don't have a reasonable plan to achieve that. State and federal compliance, this is one, we may come back and tweak this as we go along, but obviously, as you know, we are recipients of federal funds. Our schools are recipients of federal funds, so think IDEA, Title I, Title II as well. And so we're just looking to ensure that our schools are staying in compliance with state and federal requirements, particularly related to federal programming, financial compliance, and staffing, specifically under like IDEA staffing, ensuring our special ed teachers are all appropriately certified. Website transparency is the fourth, and just ensuring that our schools are being transparent in the various and sundry requirements. So one of those is publishing health information materials. Of course, they also have to publish their annual audit, and they have to publish to their website their board-approved general fund budget. And so we'll be looking at those to ensure that they're meeting their reporting requirements and their transparency requirements. And so you see there then how we worked that through being met or successful, partially met, or not met. Then we move on to the district level AFO. So how are we holding ourselves accountable? Well, the first thing of part of what we do is we support our schools through professional development, training, and technical assistance. So we want to increase the quality of the professional development, because what we want is to provide high quality professional development that then changes knowledge, skills, and expertise, that then changes behaviors if and as needed, so that we're improving, we're creating more tools in the toolbox for our teachers and our schools to, that evidence or research has shown has been effective. And so we want to evaluate those professional developments in a standardized way to ensure that we're providing high quality, and if not, being able to give us information on how to do that in a better way. Very similarly, we provide extensive data support. So, of course, we work with our Canty partner in providing newsletters and webinars, summer training. Our Director of Data and Accountability is looking at schools' level data, which is the one that identifies all the errors, making sure our schools are really staying on top of the data, because that is the basis upon which we learn and understand how well our schools are doing, from attendance to absenteeism to assessment scores and so on and so forth. So we want to evaluate ourselves on being able to ensure that we're providing robust support to our schools with the dearth of data, really, that schools have to keep up with. The third is related to fiscal practices. And so what we're looking at there is that we're providing proactive, high-quality reviews of monthly financial statements and the annual audits for our schools. And so this is something that Deputy Superintendent Michael and his team manage, just to make sure that we've got visibility on our schools to ensure that they are able to remain fiscally solvent and continue to do the great work that they are doing. Again, we will be evaluating ourselves on this in terms of the reviews provided, the feedback, and that sort of thing. School board support. And this is really where we're talking about monitoring, is us making sure that we are complying with FOIA requirements by the things that we're doing. So posting meeting minutes, posting meeting agendas, all those things that we're doing, because we want to practice what we preach. If we expect our schools, then we need to set an example and make sure we're doing the same as well. Communication and advocacy is a critical part of what we do as well. And so, as you probably know, we are looking, or we have been undertaking extensive activities from podcasts to social media postings to radio shows, newsletters, conferences. Superintendent Neely was on one of our local news stations just the other night in celebration of Liberty STEAM Charter School. So an opportunity to communicate and advocate and inform South Carolinians about what charter schools are and what we have to offer as a viable public choice to families throughout the state. And so we want to measure ourselves in not only quantity but quality so that we can continue to move the needle so that folks clearly know what charter schools are all about and what this district, most importantly, is all about, which is putting kids first. We also want to hold ourselves accountable for website transparency, just as we are with our schools, so you'll see the same very similar kinds of things there. And last is our high-quality authorization, because we are committed to providing proactive, high-quality activities for new charter schools, continued support of existing schools, replications, renewals, and amendments. And we want to look, not only at the number, but the timeliness and ensuring that we're moving those with respect to training, support, and resources for pre-applicants, applicants, year zero schools, and existing schools. Some of these data, of course, on the district side, we do not have yet developed, so you'll note on the district side, we intend to begin capturing a full year of data with the 24-25 school year. That will then give us the baseline from which to target subsequent years. In terms of our rollout plan, of course, we submitted our schools submitted their charter annual reports on December 31st. Today, if approved, we have your board decision. If you do approve, in March and April, we will be developing a guidebook. It's called Technical Manual, but it's a guidebook. It's not going to be very statisticky. You don't have to be a psychometrician to read it. And then we're also working, Dr. Jingtong Charlesworth is working on a data visualization for how this will look for each of our individual schools, because fundamentally what we want these to do is to tell the story that the report cards do not tell. You've heard several times today, which is a truism, and that comes not only from me in my capacity here, but a long tenure at the State Department. When you're looking at a one-size-fits-all approach to all schools, you're not taking into consideration the variance in the types of students, the families, the communities, the really meaty stuff that go in to make a school. So we want to prioritize our schools' goals and their financial ability, their organizational health in doing this, and we also want to have some skin in the game too by holding ourselves accountable. May we'll begin production of the AFO Index, and then our plan is a June release. We'll release that to our schools in an embargoed fashion, and once they have any chance to comment, we'll finalize those. 23-24 kind of baseline. 24 will be our first year. We'll be collecting some baseline on our district. And most importantly, we're going to keep refining. Monitor and adjust is kind of the work of educators, and so we want to make sure that if and as this needs to be tweaked, that we are nimble enough to do that to meet the unique needs of our district and our portfolio of schools. I would like to extend a special thanks to the women and men that are listed on this slide. Lanny Adamson, York Preparatory Academy, Mary Nell Anthony from Greenville Tech, Jimmy Armstrong from Greer, Keith Bailey from PDA Math Science Technology Academy, Heidi Bishop, Dr. Jacinta Bryant, Dr. Tamala Brown, Dr. Robbie Compton, Kim Dunbar, Dr. Lori Lee, Amy Horn, thank you, Brian Myrup, Josh Trahan, and Tamika Whitmire, who served on our core team to help us look at this, and also they had an opportunity to provide reaction to the version that it is now back in January. So I do want to extend a specific thanks to those individuals for giving up their time, knowledge, and expertise to come and meet with us and have really great discussions on how we might do this in a meaningful way. And with that, Madam Chair, that concludes my presentation and request for board approval.
Thank you, Mr. Payne.
Madam Chair, motion to approve.
Yes, second?
Second.
And then I had a question.
Yes, any questions?
So, Chris, exceptional job to the staff. This is extremely detailed, and it's really
Like, I
great to
think.
see. So really,
It really is.
and thank you for the presentation and all the details. Thank you especially for the rollout plan and how it's going to be used. So if I can just ask a question along those lines very quickly. So walk me through it. Next March, you come up with a school that hasn't been putting their minutes online. How, using this, what happens? What does the district do?
So part of what we have built into this are proactive checks. Lots of times in state systems and federal systems, it's kind of a wait to fail. So like with a report card, you kind of wait and hold your fingers on what that rating is going to be. So because Ms. Grant is our now school board liaison, as she shared, our intent is to not let that really happen, but to contact shortly thereafter. You have a meeting, the next meeting, as we do here, you approve the minutes. If those minutes don't get posted, then following up with those schools proactively to say, hey, we're not seeing that. Can you go ahead and make sure that gets added? So our intent is to provide proactive support so we're not going to have a school in that situation. But if we do have a situation in that, it's because they just didn't do it despite the fact of us trying to support and remind them of their obligations under the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act.
Yeah, thank you, and great answer. Love to hear it. So probably answered my next question too. August, have a school still hasn't met the percentage of teachers who need to be, certified. So what you would address that before it got to that point, right?
That's
That would
correct,
be
and
the
I think
intention.
Deputy Superintendent Baker, her team communicates that information quarterly to our schools to let them know where they are based upon where we're seeing, and then works with the schools, in whatever capacity. Part of what we've also committed to is when our schools have vacancies, we are posting them on our district webpage just to try to expand the view of individuals who may be seeking to come join charter schools as educators.
Thanks.
Dr. Pope?
Shouldn't the charter school staffing also have a representation of minority staff as well? It says certified, but there's nothing that goes along with demographics of the staff.
Dr. Pope, let me consult with our attorney. I'm not sure that's a requirement of the Charter Act, quite frankly. But we will certainly look. If it's within the Charter Act, yes, ma'am, we will make that addition to it.
Okay.
Yes.
Staffing, yes, sir.
John, question. This is very well put together. 2 points, 2 questions, really. How does one get added to the AFO core team as far as their charter school being represented? And secondly, does this process eradicate any quote-unquote loopholes to forming your own charter school without supervision from the state level?
So in terms of the core team, we will be pulling them back together as and if needed, as we revise or tweak this and maybe even extending it beyond. We had several individuals that we invited to join the core team, but just because of their own schedules weren't able to commit. So I see the core team sort of as the center, and the next group of school leaders is that kind of next layer that we will go to for opinions and feedback and advice. In terms of loopholes for that, I'm not 100% I'm understanding the question, but what we really want to make sure here is, we're looking at all their academics, we're looking at their finances, and we're looking at their organizations. And so every school will be held accountable to the standard. One of the things that I am most pleased about is because we do, our schools differ. We have a Montessori, we have a STEAM school here today. We have schools that are specifically for students with learning issues, learning disabilities, and dyslexia. We have schools that are alternate education campuses for dropout prevention. But through this AFO, by looking at their goals and what they have committed to, it allows us to be nuanced relative to all the various and different models that are out there.
Yeah, to be clear, if a charter school wants to come from California to South Carolina and start their own school, they can't just come and find a facility, correct?
That is correct. So we have, there's some state provisions in that, so any interested entity who wants to submit an application has to submit a letter of intent by November the 1st, and then by February the 1st annually, they must submit an application. They're pretty, they're pretty expansive application requirements to the State Department of Education, and then the State Department, they have to designate which authorizer, us, the other two charter authorizers, or a traditional school district. And then between February 1st and by May 1st, we conduct a very robust review involving internal and external experts. To evaluate, look at the finances, go through it with a fine-tooth comb. We then invite that committee back. We interview them. We give them scenarios, because most of the time this will be the groups that will go on to become the first board of the school, to see if they have the capacity to work together. And then at our April board meeting, at the latest, we then bring recommendations for approval or denial before this body with a similar report, making a recommendation for approval or for denial. Following that, we have a robust year zero where we put them through a charter academy and train them up. We just finished our last session back in January, and at this point, those schools in that year zero are now beginning to submit and meet their pre-opening conditions, which are a series of requirements that we make all schools complete, including making sure they're hitting by April roughly 50% of their proposed enrollment. June, we're really looking at 75% of enrollment, just to make sure that when that school is queued and ready to open, they're set, their kids are set, their faculty's set, and they're ready to begin educating those children.
Mr. Miller.
Yeah, I have a question. Thank you for this outstanding report here you've put together and the team. I don't listen well, so forgive me. The things in this report, the AFO, are these the only things that we are required to monitor due to the Charter Act?
Great question. So, no, there are a lot of requirements. So, for example, and I can just speak from personal experience, IDEA, our teams conduct monitoring to ensure that our schools, since we are a sub-grantee of IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act Fund, that they're complying. If we find that a school has some particular issue, there are a host of options that are captured not only in the Charter Act but in our contract, where we can work with them informally. We can send them perhaps a notice of concern. We can send them a notice of non-compliance with prescribed corrective actions, up to and including, as you know, revocation if the situation is warranted. So there are regulatory requirements. For most of those, in terms of the compliance, that's really where those get embedded into the state and federal compliance matrix that our staff will work on. And that's the one we may, depending on how it works this first year, may need to revisit and tweak a little more. But there are things within that we're not as part of this. That's also true of any accountability system where you're looking at, I know, for example, in IDEA alone, there's 700 regulations, separate regulations. I think there's probably 200 or 300 regulations, in state regs, some of which apply, some of which, of course, don't. There's the Charter Act. So, trying to encapsulate all of that into a comprehensive, really the core team felt, and I agree, trying to capture everything might be a little overwhelming. Rather, let's sieve it down to the essentials of what are you saying in your charter? What are your goals? What are you doing? Are you maintaining a financially healthy school? And are you operating that school above board, transparently, and in compliance with the expectations of the people of South Carolina, whose tax dollars we use to fund these schools?
So is our AFO accountability model something that's required by the state?
I believe it's required under the Charter Act, yes, sir.
Okay. Being a business person, I'm just trying to connect all the dots, because we just, approved 2 schools, and some of the things that we felt like were important were in this report that had to do with other metrics that talked about minorities, poverty, disabilities, racial ratios, and I'm just trying to connect why we have this when we already have other things that we're using to monitor whether somebody's doing their job or not.
Yeah, so the purpose of the AFO is to, let me say it this way. These are the core things that we have to look at under the Charter Act. And I would suggest that if a school gets those things right, they're going to get all the other things
Okay.
right that you're asking about.
That makes sense.
Which is a long laundry list or catalog of regulations, state and federal laws. But these are the core items. We still have our dashboard that the staff in their particular jobs and specialties has to monitor all those other things. So it's kind of like a pilot in an airplane. There's really a few things you just got to get right. You know what I'm saying?
The bolts on the door.
Yeah, but you got the
You gotta get that right.
But you got the intercom system, and you got the flight attendants delivering the coffee, and all that's got to be done right. But at the end of the day, you got to land the plane. And so that's what we're trying to do. And I will also add, for those board members who have not been around, this district used to have an accountability framework. And 5 or 6 years ago, it was a disaster. And it was punitive in nature. This is built around with our schools on collaboration and supports. So just like in your business, if you see some of your people are not performing based on the data, you're not just going to go fire them. You're going to work with them to get better so they achieve for themselves and for the company. That's what this is about. When we talk about this as a marriage, we take the covenant serious. And so when you look at it that way, we want our partner to be as successful as we want to be. And so we want to be there to help our partner when they maybe are struggling in a particular area. And like the racial composition, in the law, they have to demonstrate that they're trying to do everything they can to get there. Because we also still have built-in infrastructures in our state that limit the abilities of our schools to sometimes have the diversity that they would so desire, such as the fact that our state does not provide school buses to charter schools. For many of our families, access to a school like one of our schools, that is a big deal. They can't get there. They can't get across the county so they can get to a better school. So that's just one example. But these are those core things.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You made it very clear to a business guy who's not in the educational system. So I understand SOP, that sales, orders, and profits. So that's it. All right. You got to have the core. You got to have the core.
Madam Chair, can I add just quickly?
Yes.
So, Kip, partly what might help to clear this up is some institutional background. So South Carolina at one point did not have a charter school district. They were just approved by districts, and so the accountability was all over the place depending on what district they were in. Then they created the charter school district in 2007, whatever it was. They didn't have anybody doing accountability. Then they hired someone to do accountability. And then eventually they got an accountability plan, and then that plan was a mess, and then it went into disarray, and now we've come back around and created. So every charter school authorizer across the country, Arizona's got a statewide authorizer, Colorado's got one, Michigan's got community colleges, Florida's got a charter school authorizer. They're all supposed to do this. So they're not layering on top new regulations. They're taking everything that should have been done in the first place, laying it out so that it is clear for the schools and for the district. So this is sort of the culmination of what the district was supposed to be doing, a long time ago when it was originally created. And I don't mean to disparage, the early district. It was just that when it was created, they had to create the district first, then figure out how to do accountability. And then as the district grew, it had to change. And then superintendents changed, and now we're back around with this, which is frankly a central component of what the district should be doing.
Good.
So anyway, in terms of a timeline, this is welcome news that it's happened.
Well, I remember all the turmoil when I first came on the board 6 years ago from the accountability results that we sent out in the mail. That was a surprise to all the schools and all that ensued after that. So sounds like this is a great step forward.
We got some return to sender when we did. We were in a very different place.
I was a school leader in this district under the old accountability system. And I had lots of very passionate conversations about that system. And, we were never going to do this in a silo. It was always going to be about collaboration. And it was only through the sheer work with our schools that were part of the core team that we were able to put this together. And I think personally, this is a model for the way it should be done in the United States. And we're the only district in South Carolina that's doing this.
Right.
How often do you see a traditional school district talk like this? You don't.
And I might just simply add, if I may, Superintendent Neely is exactly right. I mean, because through this system, we don't have silos. So the entire team is able to collaborate together to identify how well each school is doing on these big major areas. And then if a school is not performing in, say, one area, okay, that then gives us cogent information to triage the support that we're able to provide and deploy to our schools. So if it's just maybe they need help in mathematics, then we can deploy folks and support and offer help in that. Compare that to, let's say it's a school that has deficiencies or issues in maybe all three areas. That's a different kind of systemic approach to address and support those schools to ensuring that they're meeting the requirements, and then not only that, but exceeding them as well. So I think there's been some unintentional benefit by having cohesion throughout the entire staffing, as well as giving us the visibility to triage schools once these get deployed so that we can target our resources more effectively in supporting them.
Madam Chair, if I may, I just wanted to comment and say, I think this is excellent.
Yeah.
Having been around this for a long time, and more specifically early on when legislation was being crafted to create the state charter school district, I would encourage us to make sure that we're letting the General Assembly know, both the House Education Committee and the Senate Education Committee, about what we've done here, because I think it can help to inform some of our interest in wanting to really begin to streamline the law. So I would certainly just offer that up as something to consider, but great job on this.
Thank you, sir.
And being older than most, I see us going back to what I lived through, and I hate that because I lived through segregation, I lived through forced integration, and neither one of those times were ideal. And because we're using demographics as a way now to say we have an excuse, we don't have transportation, so we can't include black children, just makes me heartbroken that we can say that even though you don't meet that requirement, it's okay because we know you don't have school buses. When we have schools with lots of money, they could probably get transportation for students so that they could fully integrate the schools.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Not Chairman, I'd like to say that we're going to go after a bus sometime. We're going to go after a bus. We're not.
Or at least place schools in places where students have access to that.
Yes. I think that day, those hearts are warming, and the success of this movement is growing. And it's just like the gentleman, I think he was from Sumter, you'll recall, who said, Dad, he had to walk 5 miles to school. Do you remember that story? When he lived in, I don't know, lived somewhere I think in the islands. And when he came here, his father told him, this bus who's coming down this road is coming to pick you up and take you to school. You remember that story?
Yeah, my siblings had to walk 2 miles, and they were passed by buses with children throwing things at them. So, I hate that we're using transportation as a way to exclude certain students.
Yes.
Yeah, Dr. Pope, if I may, last week when I testified at the House Ways and Means Committee, and I think most people in this room know, I'm the only superintendent in the whole state that has the opportunity and the privilege of testifying in the House and the Senate. And I directly asked the members of the General Assembly to provide buses for all of our schools. In terms of where our schools are located, as you know, the district does not create the schools. The community comes to us with a school concept, and then they submit an application. Right. So I just want to make sure that's clear, that the public understands we're not going out picking and choosing. Now, we have been the only district in the state that has said that the corridor of opportunity should be a priority and a focus, because we have 15 counties in this state where those kids have no access to choice. And not having a bus for schools or the district or any district should not be an excuse. Our doors are open to all kids, but it is a reality that And many of our all our counties don't look the same in South Carolina. Spartanburg does not look like Bamberg County in a lot of ways, economically, demographically. And so when it comes to transportation, that is a factor, because as you know, many of our kids, like, well, Edgefield County, for instance, you know, parents do everything they can to get their kids to a good school. But if they don't have access to one, or if they don't have a good school close by, you know, it's difficult. So we're going to continue to expand access. We're going to continue to encourage our schools to do what Mr. Sherman's doing. I mean, Brian is intentionally going into black churches to talk with ministers about what can we do to market our school to black children in Spartanburg County to get them into our schools. And we want to see that. And we want to, in our Hispanic communities. The Hispanic community in Beaufort County is 30% of the population, larger than the black community. So they've got to then design marketing programs and outreach programs with those ML students to get them in there as well. So we're going to continue to encourage those kind of outreach efforts so that we can expand the diversity of our district. But when you look at the district's demographics, there's not another school district that's as balanced diversity-wise than our district. 51% of our students are students of color, 50% are students of poverty, and 16% are students with disabilities. And I am proud that our district has such great diversity. And in fact, we're even talking about what can we do marketing-wise statewide to further market our schools and our district, because our doors are open to all kids.
Unfortunately, a lot of those, the demographics you mentioned, there are a lot of charter schools that only have black students. And so it looks like we have a good diversity, but we're really still segregated. And a lot of it, too, has to do with who we hire in our schools to lead our schools. Sometimes parents are looking for schools that have a diverse staff, administrators who look like them. And a lot of our schools don't have that.
Yeah, and that can be something that we can continue to work with our schools on. Yesterday, we had a virtual career fair and had 30 teachers that participated and were connected with our schools. So we will continue to do outreach in that. We will continue to work with our HBCs and their teacher programs so that we can continue to provide future educators opportunities in charter schools so that the demographics can continue to be more diverse and changed. I appreciate that feedback.
Call me Mr.
Call Me Mr. is a great program. That's exactly right.
Great program.
We've got them down at Felton, down in Orangeburg, but it'd be great to have Call Me Mr. all over. Yeah, well, they're part of the Clemson program, but Felton, down in Orangeburg.
Yeah, they're Call Me Mr. is a tremendous program, and outreach for any charter school. I think it'd be remiss at that Liberty STEAM Charter School in Sumter, South Carolina. There's 9, again, we're led by Dr. Trevor Ivey. I see him in the back there, 8 to 9 black male teachers, which is unheard of, unprecedented at the school. But there was an intentionality there. There's a great mixture of Caucasian, Black American, and Hispanic communities at Sumter. But all that to say is there was an intentionality there between the leadership to go and partner with Call Me Mr.
That's what you have to have, that intentionality.
Yes.
That's right.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Now we'll hear the December financial report.
I think we should call the question and vote, Madam Chair.
Oh, excuse me. That's where I'm getting a little mixed up. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All the ayes have it. Thank you. It's just a mammoth work that you put together and with the staff.
Good afternoon, excuse me. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Board of Trustees. I'm going to report on our December financials. If we can go to page, am I controlling? Okay, thank you. At the end of December, we expect 50% of general fund approved budget to remain. We are currently at 49.65%. My report will show the district is bringing in more revenue than forecasted, along with additional expenditures in salaries and increased benefit costs. Looking at page 2 of my report, this is the district-wide income statement, which includes general fund state aid to classroom revenue transferred to our schools. State aid to classroom is the majority of state revenue our schools receive under the new funding formula. Through December 31st, the district received over $85.1 million in revenue with total expenditures of over $83.8 million, which equals a net income of over $1.3 million. Of the revenue received, over $81.7 million was sent to our schools under the new funding formula and for any that participated in the South Carolina retirement system. We continue to advocate for additional state funding for our schools since we don't get local support. All right, turning over to page 3. This report is the income statement for the district office only. This does not include school revenue or expenditures. And we're looking specifically only at general fund, which is our 2% authorizing fee, donations, interest income, and any other local sources that we receive at the district office. For the month of December, the district recorded over $366,000 in revenue, over $343,000 in expenditures, for a net income for the month of $23,000. Year to date, the district has recorded over $2 million in revenue and expenditures for a net income of $5,219 through December 31st. This increases our estimated fund balance from $2,043,980 to $2,049,199, mainly due to the interest income received, which is over $30,000 in December and $67,000 year to date. As a result, we are able to invest the district funds, raise more interest, which will provide additional support at no cost to our schools. In the January report, our fund balance continues to grow because funding was updated using our 45-day membership data, which is just over 50,000 weighted pupil units. And I'll present that at the next board meeting. All right, looking at page 4, this report breaks out the district's budgets and expenditures by department. Leadership has a budget of over $1.81 million, expenditures of over $933,000, with 48% remaining. Sponsor Performance has a budget of over $700,000, expenditures of over $300,000, with 57% remaining. Support and Implementation has a budget of over $899,000, expenditures of over $399,000, with 56% remaining. Financial Services and Operations has a budget of over $650,000, expenditures of over $410,000, with 37% remaining. I will be presenting a budget amendment closer to the end of the fiscal year to balance the individual general fund accounts to align with actual revenue and expenditures. So where you see on that report, a lot of categories have high balances remaining, or some are showing negative. I'm going to go ahead and submit a budget amendment for approval to balance it out. All right, on the final page of my report, this is a report generated by the State Department, which includes all state funding calculated for our district. Each school district is required to follow the State Department's Uniform Chart of Accounts to track revenue and expenditures. I thought it would be beneficial to explain how this report is set up. In that way, everybody has a better understanding of the Uniform Chart of Accounts. Column 1 of this report displays the fund number, which is how we track the source of funding. So if you look in column 1, there's 2 100-level funds, which is general fund. When I report my monthly budget update, we're only looking specifically at general fund. We're not looking at any other fund. Column 2 is the revenue code and description of the funding. So if we look at the general fund revenue codes, 3103, state aid to classroom, and then 3181, retiree insurance. Column 4 is the current allocation of what's due to our district based on the allocation formula for that year, for the year and the specific revenue. So each revenue has a different allocation formula. So like state aid to classrooms, the allocation formula is based off of our weighted pupil unit compared to the statewide weighted pupil unit. Whereas reading coach is based on if you're eligible based on grade level, and then if you have a full-time or part-time FTE as a reading coach. And then column 6 of this report is the current payment, which is sent to the district for the month. So on this report for January, you can see our total revenue was just over $17 million. Lastly, out of the $209 million under the current allocation, that's going to be your fourth column, all the way down at the bottom. Out of the $209 million, $203 million is under state aided classrooms, which equates to approximately 97.2% of our state revenue for the year. And that's state aided classrooms revenue 3103 and then 3503, the ones that are highlighted. This concludes my December financial report.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, motion to
Yes.
approve the financial report.
Second.
Second, all in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Question?
I have a question.
Yes. I thought it was an aye.
Probably an easy explanation, but on page 2, we have state aid, I'm sorry, we have, state aid to classrooms, 7 million, and then expenditure school funding does not match that number. It's 81.7. There's about a $900,000 difference.
Correct. So we had a school that closed, that was ordered by the court, administrative law court to close. And the State Department continued to send us funding for that school between September and December. That's the difference.
Okay, thank you.
Now we'll move into our super informational. Oh, okay. So we're, thank you. I'm used to voting on people, but not on, motion. So do I hear a motion to approve and accept this report?
I think we did.
I thought we did.
We voted.
But I was trusting him.
Kip
I
had a
thought we.
question. Okay.
Did you say we were voting Kip out? Okay.
We're good.
That's okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right, I also need to present, I just have one finance update. I just want to let you all know that we have published our audit RFP on the SCIBO website. It's going to be published through February 27th. To date, we've had 3 audit firms reach out with additional questions on the RFP, so that's really good for where we are right now. But the RFP closes the 27th, and then we'll put together a little group of, a group to review the bids, and then I'll present that in the March board meeting for your approval.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As Chris is walking over, I just wanted to, as a Charlestonian, I had the privilege to read Chris's article on the new South Carolina Charter program that will define education in the workforce, bringing those together. And it was in the Charleston Post and Courier, as some of you might have seen in your releases, in the press releases. But I want to say, the Charleston Post and Courier doesn't generally put a lot of stuff like this from this perspective. So you really won the day in having it so well in print and so articulated and winning the human spirit of it all in this, Chris. And so new South Carolina Charter program will redefine education in the workforce. And he's talking specifically about Palmetto Excel, but the need for workforce centers of excellence across the state. And I think this has been the vision of Chris, the staff. We all embrace that. And if you haven't read it, I just commend it to you. I've got it scratched through here where I've underlined it. But it is just excellent, and it's an excellent compliment that they place this in the Charleston Post and Courier.
It was also in the Aiken Standard.
Really good, just really good. Very enthusiastic. Thank you. Okay, so now I thought I just did, okay. So now we're going to hear from our superintendent's report. Yes. Thanks, y'all.
I promise this one will be much quicker. Just to give you a couple of informational items on sponsor performance. So first of all, we do have two non-material changes that occurred for this February board meeting. One was for Midlands Middle College that revised their bylaws to ensure that they had representation from Midlands Technical College and revisions to elections, filling vacancies and processes. PD Hall, which you approved last year, who had applied for P&I funding, did not get those fundings and had reached out to us. They're in the Chirral area and have asked to delay opening until 2025-26 to have an extra year zero to ensure that they have the viability to start. And in conversations and discussions with our legal counsel, these were considered non-material changes, so I provide those for your information. As you know, back in November, we received 26, I believe, letters of intent from various and sundry groups. On February the 1st, we have now confirmed we have received 12 applications from interested groups that want to join the South Carolina Public Charter School District family. And those are provided to you in this table, as well as, I believe, in a table that you have as well. As you'll note, just very quickly, a number of those: North Charleston, Walterboro, Myrtle Beach, Hartsville, Sumter, Lake City. A number of those are hitting the corridor of opportunity. We're excited about that. We are underway now in doing completeness checks and screeners, and then we will begin our full review and have some of those potentially at our March board meeting, and if not, certainly any left at our April board meeting. And with that, I turn it over to my colleague, Deputy Baker.
Good afternoon. Today I'm sticking with the power of three, but Trustee Davis, we welcome you to the family as a Clemson alumni and current student. Go Tigers.
Thank you.
All right, so the first thing I have for you today is an update from the supported implementation team, is letting you know that this coming Monday, February the 12th, we are hosting 35 school counselors from across our portfolio in our office. The supported implementation team have each kind of taken a piece of this puzzle. We're walking those counselors through some best practices, kind of grounding ourselves in some basic guidance principles, but also weaving workforce through our program. We're ensuring that our counselors, we're kind of going to challenge their thinking in what impact they can have on parent mindset when it comes to college and career readiness, as well as their impact in their schools for college and career readiness. An update on our school counselor response team. This is something that I have shared with you many times before, but I wanted to let you know that we have had two recent call-outs for that. We had a staff tragedy, and we've also had a student tragedy recently that I know those have been communicated to you. But what I wanted to share with you today is kind of a thank you to our school leaders across our portfolio. As you can imagine, these tragedies tend to happen on nights and weekends. And so when we call upon this group, I reach out to both our school leaders as well as to our counselor group to say, hey, here's what we need, here's where we're needed. And I just want to send a thank you to our school leaders because they are very willing to offer their staff to come in response to needs anywhere in the state, any day of the week. So a shout out to our school leaders for willingness to be good partners and good neighbors. The last thing is to share with you